So when I was in fourth grade, I had a crush on this girl named Michelle Rich. And, she was pretty. And then I was sent to boarding school in Switzerland for 2 years. And I just thought about her all the time. I was just fantasizing about when I would get back to California and I could be with Michelle Rich again. And she was just the subject of all my dreams. And then I went back to California after 2 years. And all I could think about was Michelle. And but I was too shy to talk to her. So I befriended her brother, who I had no interest in whatsoever. And I would go to her house and just hang out with her brother. And we'd watch like football games on TV. I also had no interest in football either, but it was just to be near her. And then in school, I was too shy to talk to her. So I would talk to her friends and I would tell them about my crush on her. And I would like write notes to her and then they would pass them along. And then she'd write notes back to me. But like her notes were like, do you like me or do you like my friends? And I'd be like, no, I like you. And I think she was like, didn't understand why I didn't talk to her ever. But I was just too shy. And I remember like she wore a different outfit every single day of the year. And I know this because I was, paying attention, but like, she was really rich. I mean, her father was like an obstetrician. And I think she had like 300 different outfits. And then there was like a school trip to Magic Mountain, this amusement park just outside of LA. And I asked her if she'd go with me. She said yes. And so it was me, her, and two of her friends that I was talking to all the time. And they kept trying to like get us together, like alone, like in the Ferris wheel or whatever. And we would just sit there and like say nothing to each other, like just complete silence for the whole ride. And eventually she got tired of my silence and, it wasn't much fun for her, I guess. And she stopped talking to me and she kind of moved on. And I was kind of heartbroken and crushed and angry. And she used to walk home from school. I would see her sometimes when I was walking home from school. And once I started kind of like getting into an argument with one of her friends and we got into a fight and somehow I ended up kicking her. Like I kicked Michelle in the leg. And then my sister told me that our mother told her, that our neighbor told her, that Michelle's mother had told her that I was kicking Michelle and to please stop it. And I was mortified. I was so embarrassed that my mom had heard about this and, I didn't kick her again, but I also didn't talk to her ever again. And then we went to different high schools and I saw her once again when we were playing their high school at a football game afterwards. And she had changed a lot. She was kind of like sluttier. She was wearing this like fur coat and hanging out with these kind of slutty girls and they had like lots of makeup on and, and I was just like, oh, interesting new look. But I don't think I talked to her then either. And then years later, I ended up going to her house and I rang the doorbell and her father answered the buzzer. Who is it? And I said, oh, hi, I'm an old friend of Michelle's from junior high. I was wondering if I could get her contact info. And he said, I haven't spoken to her in years, but let me see if I can find something for you. And then I was like, oh, wow. What's the backstory behind that one? And then he gave me an address in Oregon. And so I wrote her a letter and I just said, I'm really sorry I kicked you in junior high. I feel really bad about it. I just had a crush on you and my feelings were hurt that you didn't seem to like me. And I'm really, really sorry. Is there anything I can do to to repair this? And I didn't get an answer back. And then there was like a 20-year high school reunion happening. And I didn't even go to her high school, but I decided to go to her high school reunion just so I could see her. And so I went to it and I knew a few people who went to that high school and I ran into them and I was like, where's Michelle? Where's Michelle? And they were like, oh, there she is. And I was like, oh. And, she had like gained a lot of weight and she was with this guy who also was kind of rotund. And I went up to her and I said, hey, it's me, Kaveh. Do you remember me? I'm the one who kicked you and wrote you that letter. And she turns to the guy that she's with, her husband, I'm assuming. And she goes, that's the guy who wrote the letter. And the guy turns to her and he goes, that guy? And she's like, uh-huh. And he looks at me and he says, excuse us a moment. And then he just takes her by the arm and they move away from me like 3 feet. And then they just like keep talking, just far enough away to say like, fuck you, leave us alone. And I was like, oh, wow, ouch. okay, I guess I should go now. But I felt so relieved because this whole time I'd had this idea that like she was the one and I'd fucked it up by kicking her. And if only I hadn't kicked her or if only I'd talked to her in the Ferris wheel, like my whole life would have been different. But I was like, she's not even a nice person. And I just felt so free and really just ecstatic at being treated that way.